Okay, hello again, and we are here for Meet Roy Part 4, and in this part we're going to go ahead and assemble all the servos and fingers to the palm, basically completing the hand kit or preparing the hand for the arm kit. So where we should be is, we have our palm, you should have your 4 fingers and a thumb all assembled, and then all your parts to go along with it. So we have all our different separate little hardware bags that came with our fingers as we put it together, and then we have our 6 or 5 servos left over. So what we're going to do first is, I think first we're going to mount all the servos in the palm, and then once the servos are mounted we'll go ahead and attach the fingers after that. So we'll move the fingers aside for now, and we'll set the palm out and go from there. In looking at the assembly, I decided that it'll probably be easier to put in the servos with the thumb wishbone out. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and remove that. I know I had you put it in the last assembly, but thinking about it, I think it'd be better to leave it off so we have room, because these little screws that hold in the servos can be kind of a bear. So we're just going to start by taking that off. Just those 2 screws, set them aside. Set those aside, and the wishbone goes over there. Okay. So we're going to need our servos, so I'm going to basically get out the servos here. We'll get to the horns in a minute, so I'm just going to stack those off to the side. Okay, and our last servo. Alright, what I like to do is straighten out these servo wires. So I just grab them and give them a little pull. Don't obviously pull too hard, you don't want to disturb the connection in the servo, but just a little slide makes them come apart pretty easy. Okay, so this gets a little tricky because you have to put the servos in a particular order so that everything can be, the wires can all be threaded along with all the screws for the servos. So let's empty out our hardware packs here. I'm just going to put them all in a pile because I kind of know where everything goes. Leave the one for the thumb aside, and I'm going to leave the one for the leftover wrist parts. Well, actually, no, we need that one because that's got the screws to hold this wrist servo in. So we're going to put it all in a pile. Come on out of there. Okay. Alright, so for this first step, we're mainly interested in all the small 256 nuts and screws. So I'm going to slide away most of the other stuff here while I got a chance. We can take all the 440 screws out. Those are all for holding the fingers on later. And we can take all the washers out. Okay, good enough. I can pick what I need out of there. Now you do want to be careful. If you notice in here, you still have the issue of there are going to be some metric nuts in the pile that fit the 2mm balls. So you want to separate those out. And basically you can do that by looking at the smaller nuts And you can see which ones have the larger hole in the middle and the smaller hole in the middle. And plus you've got the thickness that you can look at. Again, the thicker nut is going to be the metric nut. So I'm going to slide those all together and try to figure out which ones are which. Okay, I would say let's see here. That one can go out. Looks like, just from eyeballing it, it looks like the ones with the 2mm have a little bit smaller inner diameter on the threads. And you should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. So you want to find the 5 that go with the ball screws. So there's 4, and I would say that that's number 5. Alright, so I've separated out my 5 2mm nuts, and those are going to go over there. And basically what I'm left with is mostly 256 nuts and screws. A couple of washers mixed in there, but not a problem. Okay. So the first servo that has got to go in place is going to be the one that drops right in here. It's got to actually go in place but not get tightened down, because you can't get it in once all the other servos are there. So basically what we do is we just take it, we're going to feed the wire. You want to feed the wire through the square hole in the servo fits in, and then down through the square hole in the bottom of the hand. And when you go to put these servos in, you want to insert the side with the wire first, and then just kind of rock them into place. They take a little bit of a snap, but they go down in there eventually. And again, just make sure your wire is coming out through the bottom. Now, we drop that servo in, but we can't tighten it in yet, because we need to pass the servo wires for the other 4 fingers have got to go underneath that servo and out the bottom, and it's really a tight squeeze. So we have to leave that loose so that as these other servos go in, we can feed the wires down through. So I would say let's start with, I think we'll start with this one, which would be the index finger servo. On the index finger servo, we're going to fit it in there like that. You want to go ahead and take your servo wire, and you actually want to rock it over to the side of the servo on this one. Most of them you bring down the top, but on this particular one we bring it to the side so that it doesn't get caught. So you can see right there, and this is again where our tape is going to come in handy. I like to put the wire where I want it, and then just take a piece of clear Scotch tape and affix it there. Now that might be a problem, because I don't think I'll be able to get this thing through that wire on there. Yep. Alright. See? You'd think I know how to do this after all the times, but sometimes you just forget. It's been a while since I put one together. Alright, so the first thing we got to do is get that servo in. So we're going to drop the servo in the index finger. Again, servo splines always face towards the finger end. And we're going to drop it in. Now, once we have it in, now we can go ahead and tape the servo wire over. Hold that on the side. Drop a piece of tape on there. And the reason we put that one off to the side is the horn right here for the palm swings back and forth, and if the wire is sitting on the back side of this servo and coming down over this back edge, this horn will actually pinch it as we go by, and you could take a chance of cutting the wire, and we don't want to do that. So then this wire passes through that square slot right below it, next to the servo. So we go through that slot. And then you got to get it down and through the square in the bottom. So this is where some little needle nose can come in handy to guide all of our servo wires. And then we just pull it in. And if you can, you know, avoid twisting up the servo wire, keeping it as flat as possible so everything lays clean. If it gets twisted, you can just kind of go in there with your needle nose and roll it back over to where you want it. Okay. Alright, so if you can see there, down the side, through the square hole, out the bottom. Alright, now, again, we're not going to start putting any screws in until we get everything kind of in place, because in order to put these screws in, we have to loosen, these servos have to pop up, and it just gets into a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just going to kind of fit all the servos, and then we'll go ahead and start screwing them all down.